Hey guys, actually I didn't plan on making a video today at all, with the exception of another project I had maybe going on. But it's the weirdest thing. A message popped up on my phone from a person. I'm not gonna identify this person because it's like the comment shows up publicly and then it's not showing up on my YouTube page. So I won't be naming this person at all. But I found the content of the message to be quite moving in a way. So I wanted to respond to what he said, and the reason I'm doing it this way is because I think a lot of people could benefit from hearing this themselves. It says, I think some people don't know what love is. Lots of people don't love themselves. My experience is a lot of people seeking God are people looking for love. But the problem is we don't love ourselves or really have experienced true love as children. We end up in religions taken advantage of because we look for it. Also, people go the other way: drugs, sex, self-indulgence, if they have money. I think that since we don't have love as kids, we have lots and lots of shame. We pray to God, but we still are empty because we don't know what the feeling of love is, or our security of being someone of value might be a better way of saying it. I think if you have been loved, you can feel it and know it. Lots of people seem to be happy and content. I wonder what they are and how they feel inside. Lots of people I have questioned seem to have a kind of fear response. I watch YouTube trying to figure some things out. Maybe I should change love to being of value, or learning you are some value will understand the concept better. If you don't have value as a person and have not learned it as a child, you are in for a life of pain. I think that a high percent probably feel this way. Also, people get brainwashed in a lot of religions as well and think that they have God now almost as a protection racket. I'm a believer in God and his son Jesus. I'm confused about Jesus and have a hard time with this man or God stuff, so I try to figure it out so I can pray appropriately. In my searching, I came across a lot of personalities. The thing is, we have so many people that absolutely know the truth, but they all have different ideas. I was convinced for years that Jesus was God of the Old Testament. I remember going through long studies on this with many accomplished, educated people. I would guess a large percentage no longer believe what they did 20 years ago. I have personal friends with high intelligence and integrity that believe the most crazy stuff. The gold dust stuff and jewels appearing at churches. I am amazed by this. I guess I feel a bit better about myself. Laugh out loud. I may be damaged spiritually and cannot feel at ease because of my wiring and imprinting as a child. I do not know many brilliant men that follow belief systems that I know are absolutely wrong. Excuse me, I do know many brilliant men that follow belief systems I know are absolutely wrong, if you base it on the Bible anyway. I have a very difficult life, mostly from making big life choices that were way off due to the wrong belief systems looking back. Just ranting, I guess. I watch your channel because you seem to be searching as well. Thank you for your research and your perspective. That kind of gets at the heart of the matter, doesn't it? And I think that he's right, or she, whoever this may be. They have a lot, fear is a part of a relationship with God. But in love, there is no fear. And I think when you accomplish that task, and I would say this to this person, I would personally say, since you're in this place, you're probably very close to getting to where you need to be. For me personally, like I said, I look at it kind of, if you imagine Jesus on a mountain calling out to people, and some people are already halfway up the mountain, some people are down at the bottom of the mountain. Fortunate for me, I was on another mountain and fell down and had to go all the way to the bottom of a different mountain. And it's kind of like looking at a bunch of rocks going up this other mountain that Jesus is on. But I think when you let the Spirit guide you, you find the path between these rocks. And that's the thing that's great about having the Spirit with you, is that the things that seem so impossible, there's so many rocks and cliffs, and this little path emerges. And most of the time, all it takes is us moving forward into the path. And as far as using God as a protection racket, there's some people, they absolutely do. Some people, it's all about not going to hell. And I can tell by the way you talk that your search is much deeper than that, and that's a good thing. That emptiness, to me, that we have inside as pre-believers, that we may fill with so many different things, doctrines and theologies being the first and foremost, that we try to fill the void with. And that is the most terrible form of counterfeit completeness. It's when you fill it with theology or a belief system that's only been peddled and quantified by man, it masquerades as God. And I would think that it is the absolute most dangerous form of, I'd rather be addicted to sex, drugs, and rock and roll than to be addicted to these theologies like Calvinism and Trinitarian, all these theologies. They masquerade as God. And it's never easier to be misled than when you give someone the master's voice. Jesus says, my sheep hear my voice. And when you have, through time and self-deceit, in my opinion, and just not being interested in finding out the truth on your own, Jesus's voice changes, and it's someone else's voice. It's the people that wrote these theologies' voices that you hear. And to you, they sound like God. They sound like Jesus. They sound like the right thing to do. But yet, you keep running into these problems. And people like you that acknowledge these problems, every belief system has problems. Even if, you think you're right, there's things you have to deal with. And as long as you have that, and I don't think that I have it all figured out. And it's not about intelligence, and it's not about how smart we are as individuals. It's about how wise we are. And I think someone, look at Forrest Gump. He had a certain wisdom about him. He wasn't intelligent. And you look at the comparison to someone like Paul and someone like Peter. I think it's fair to say Paul was probably a lot more formally intelligent than Peter. Peter was a fisherman. He probably couldn't read or write. Paul was educated and raised up, and Peter may have been, I'm not saying Peter was dumb, but I don't think he was as intelligent as Paul in an earthly way. But the content that they shared in their mind and their heart was wisdom. And wisdom to me is a considering spirit. It's a weighing spirit. It lets you take things that you may not agree with in the slightest, but consider them and repel around them and look into them and open up their deeper meanings and compare it to what you hold to be true. I think it is the attribute that is most cherished by God in a Christian, is that spirit of wisdom, the ability to listen. And I know I have views on what a human is that may conflict with other, Unitarian brothers and stuff. But I think that we are, it's up to us in a lot of ways. Let me put it to you that way. Because it's one thing to say, well, we just listen to the Spirit. And you have to understand that you have to, you have to consider it. Why is that passage even in the Bible? Lord, Lord, depart from me, I never knew you. It's because people who don't wish to follow that Spirit, they don't wish to truly open it up and consider it and weigh it. And what I would say to you, I'm sensing that there's a lot of confusion and hurt, and that's not too big for God. I'm a firm believer that he's like the Terminator. If there is someone with a heart that's reaching and a heart that's broken, he'll bust through walls to connect to that person. And I'd be willing to bet more than likely in your life, you're probably finding people who just happen to be talking about things that are on your mind. And that to me is how God works a large part of the time, because you have to develop an understanding of the Spirit to understand it. It doesn't mean he's not talking to you. It doesn't mean he's not leading you. It doesn't mean he's trying to fill that void for you. We have to let him. We have to understand, because sometimes life doesn't look the way we think it should. And I've said this many times before, you may just be in a place that you just haven't learned something yet, and trust me, I would love for God to answer all my questions right now, right here, right now. But I've developed that wisdom. I understand to wait on the Spirit. I understand that when that time comes, it will come. And it's such a beautiful thing, it fulfills our human curiosity. God knows how to speak to us, all of us as individuals. Your understanding of how he speaks is going to be different than mine. The biggest judge of the Spirit, if you think you're interacting with it, is what is it telling you? If your spirit is all about doctrine, if your spirit's all about theology, if your spirit is all about fear and dodging condemnation but quickly condemning others, it's probably not the Spirit. But if this spirit is soft, if that spirit is wise, if that spirit is, heaven and hell become byproducts. They're not even things I really think about too often, because heaven is no eye has seen. I couldn't imagine it if I tried, as far as what the kingdom to come will be. I just trust. I don't think about hell because the futility of it. It's, if you're headed that way, then what can you do about it, really? Until God reveals it to you that there needs to be a change in your life, if you don't perceive that already. And there's a point where you get past that certain kind of fear. It's like an intimate relationship. You shouldn't, I hope you're not, if you have a wife or a husband, or if you sit around thinking about all the bad things they could do to you, then you probably aren't in a very good relationship. And the same is true with God. If your thoughts are more on God, going deeper into his being and immersing yourself in that, you just tend not to think of hell and all these other things. It's just not something that's important to you. So, I would say keep searching. I really appreciate the incredibly honest and straightforward comment that was posted. And I think you're right about a lot of things. There is naturally a void in us. And I call it the mark of the Creator, and it was a video I did some time back about this very topic called animals. I don't think we're ever truly alive until we connect with God. And I'm not saying there's any one particular way to connect with God. I think there's many ways. We too often forget that Abraham was the first Jew, first Hebrew, actually. And he was a Philistine, if I'm not mistaken, a Canaanite. He was a Canaanite. And there were no Hebrews or Jews. And he spoke to Abraham, who wasn't in this religion. And Noah was around before the times of religion. Adam. So God will connect with people. And once again, I've said this statement before. It's almost like if God didn't exist, if you had a conception of what you thought was good and you lived by that, and you would die by that, it was truly good to you. And I think that's kind of the character he's looking for, and where I already stand on, Jesus being God. And I would say if you're struggling in that area, if you're trying to figure out what is true for you, like I said, I'm not concerned with trying to make you believe what I believe. I would simply tell you, first of all, in the Unitarian type belief system, it is perfectly okay to pray to Jesus, okay? Now, praying to Jesus as God, yeah, would be a different thing for someone like me. But once again, if you're seeking, that you can't let condemnation and shame and these things overtake you when you're seeking. It is the number one reason besides doctrine that people will just shut down. If you believe in your heart that God is real and you believe that Jesus is real, they welcome the questions. They really do. Because in your mindset, from what I can detect, it's a great question for you to ask right now. Ask God to show you. And remember, those answers will come in many different ways. Many, many different ways. And yeah, there are people that believe in a lot of things that I don't believe in. That always will be the case. But remember, it's their character. You know, it's if you want to make inroads with people and you feel that you truly have the truth about something, remember it's the quality of your character that speaks to them the most. Um, and you say you're damaged spiritually and you cannot feel at ease. I know what you're talking about, and I think we all have things to an extent in our past that we are extremely shameful of. And it's actually a Jewish belief that in Pharisaical Judaism to thank God for evil because it allows us to choose Him. And I would say in that regard is never let it stop you. You know, you will carry your burden, you definitely will, but in time that will ease. But it's always a great thing to look back upon because it tells you there's a difference now. It tells you that you don't want to be in that same situation and you don't want to feel that way. So it tells you there's growth. That tells you that God, it's on your heart. And if that is the case, it's probably a good thing that it is on your heart because it's a sign of moving forward. And there will come a day where you make peace with what you've done and you make peace with God with what you've done and you carry on. You cannot be a great Christian and look backwards all the time. You should carry the weight of your decisions all the time, but you should not look backwards. You got to walk forward because the bottom line is either you're forgiven or you're not. If you're not forgiven, I would work on that, work on my spirit. When that time comes to you where you feel forgiven and you think, pray on it. And once you've hit that, and trust me, He's quick to forgive. He's not interested in holding things against you. His love is so rich and so deep and so beyond our comprehension. These doctrines can't possibly be true because they fall so utterly short of what God is supposed to be. Even in the Bible and its limited language and understanding that we have of those ancient languages, these doctrines they shatter and fall apart because they utterly quake and shiver and come completely short of even approaching the glory of God. It's the gift of a child when your child is born and you look at them is more powerful than any doctrine in the reflection of the love of God and the characteristics of what is pure, what is love. And that's why these systems are a joke. You're absolutely correct. They don't approach the majesty of the throne in the slightest. And you'll let go of that fear too. Once you start to experience it, in my opinion, you will absolutely let go of the fear of the doctrines when you even begin to approach the majesty of the throne and the mercy that has come through God and by way of Jesus Christ. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, you made bad decisions. We all made bad decisions, brother or sister, whoever you may be. But that's part of life. And God's not interested in holding that against you. He's interested in showing you the way forward. So I appreciate you watching, and I hope this was enlightening for you a little bit. And I think that you're getting It feels like to me that you're getting to that point of groaning, and it's beautiful in its own way, because God is made powerful in our weakness. And when we are truly weak, there's a well of life that pops up in us that can only be explained as the completion of the human spirit. When God is in you, you truly become human, and the world changes. God is a humanist. Jesus was a humanist in no sense. They valued people so much, and they still do. And that includes you. Absolutely includes you. You are just as precious as any other sheep that have come out of God's creation. So don't ever feel that you can't. Don't ever feel that He won't, because He will, and He can, and He absolutely. Remember, Paul says He loved us even though we were still sinners. That doesn't just apply to then, it applies to now. While you're out there in the world making mistakes and this and that and struggling and trying to when you reach that point, God loved you. Jesus loves you even though you are a sinner. And that's why He will forgive you so fast. You'll be amazed at how fast God will start to make things change in your life. And that's a guarantee. That's a biblical guarantee given by the Son. So hang in there. I really appreciate this thoughtful comment. And like I said, you're on point on a lot of stuff. Just keep looking. That's all I would tell you. Just keep looking and listen. Don't ever stop listening and considering your ways. God bless.